Back here on CBS Sports AHQ, the RBC Canadian Open, that is upon us. Robert McIntyre looking to run it back and be the first golfer to successfully defend his title at the RBC Canadian Open in back-to-back years since Jonathan Vegas did it in 2016-17 there. Scotty, we've been talking about him all week. He's taken the week off to prepare for the U.S. Open. So now we are all talking about Rory McIlroy. Rory is the top player in the field. Play gets underway on Thursday at TPC Toronto at Osprey Valley. So let's welcome in our very own Michael Breed for an RBC Canadian Open preview. First things first, Breed, we got to get to the course preview for TPC Toronto at Osprey Valley. What can we expect, my friend?
Well, it's a golf course. It's a long golf course. You've got 4 par 4s that are over 500 yards. 6 of the par 4s are 480 or longer. It's a par 70 golf course that's right around 7,400 yards. The greens are sort of 6,500 square feet. It's a great golf course. I was actually up there earlier this year talking with the Canadian PGA, and it's a beautiful site. The TPC Toronto is absolutely splendid spot. But it is a golf course that's going to really test the players with the distance approaches. And I think that for the first time seeing this golf course, which is what many of these players are getting a look at for the first time, TPC Toronto, it's going to be one that really tests them. I don't know that we're going to see the scoring be what we've seen in the past. The rough is going to be up a bit. It's going to get nearly 4 inches in length. So when you put it all together, it's a lot of golf course this week. It's a beautiful venue, but a lot of golf course.
Yeah, we just saw there underwent renovations not too long ago in the first year that this event is being hosted there. Breed, you were in your element to give us a Breed breakdown, and we're talking about the long par 4s that we're going to see here at the RBC Canadian Open. So hit us with the long 4s and some of the solutions for that.
All right, well, we're going to go long iron here, which is one of the key things. And one of the things really that amateurs struggle with all the time are those long irons coming into greens. And because there's not a lot of loft, what tends to happen is we tend to want to help this thing get up into the air. And so there's a couple of things that we need to pay attention to. One, at address, many times the shoulders get level to the ground. I want you to kind of feel like those shoulders are sort of pointing up into the air a little bit. That'll help the club come from the inside and help chuck it up into the air. The other thing that I want you to feel is I really want you to focus on the trail arm and the length that the trail arm has in the backswing. So combining that with the tilted shoulders, what you're going to be able to do is launch this up into the air, and you'll be able to hit this thing high. Let's try another one of these there because it doesn't quite go as high as we want it to go. So how can we create a little bit more trajectory? Well, one of the things that we need to do when we add to this cake, if you will, we've got to put some candles on the cake. What I want you to feel is when you're coming through that trail shoulder is staying down. So put those 3 things together. Start with address, keep that width in the backswing, and then focus on that trail shoulder staying down. And all of a sudden, we're going to hoist this thing straight up into the air. Now, you can see how long this takes to land. But when this does land, we'll come up to the front here, and I want you to take a look at what happens with the apex of that shot. All of a sudden, it's 94 feet in the air. That thing is climbing up into the air. And when it gets up into the air, it lands softly into that green, and all of a sudden, you're on that green instead of over the green or shy of the green because you've created that trajectory.
Breed, I'm going to clip this off and send it to Brandon Baylor and Zach Aldridge because they keep spamming my feed with like golf content. They're trying so hard. I feel like they still need some help. So I'm gonna send this over to them. Let's go back to the field here out at the Canadian Open. Rory, he is the betting favorite. He is back after skipping the Memorial. You know, we were just talking about this off camera. Since completing the career Grand Slam, since winning at Augusta, I kind of thought we'd see like more relaxed, chill, and just like awesome golf from Rory, but I mean, he hasn't been bad. Like T7 at the Truist, that's his best finish since winning at Augusta. But what are your expectations for Rory, especially when you consider the sort of play we've seen from him since winning at Augusta?
Well, I think there's a couple things that you got to factor in here. One is he plays really well in Canada. In fact, in his last 5 times that he's been up here, he's won this event 3 times. He's got a 4th and a 9th in the other 2 times. So he loves playing up here. The other thing is I think Scotty Scheffler, strangely, is kind of nudging Rory to refocus a little bit. And I think Rory's going to come back this week, and he is going to refocus. You start looking at these 2 players, Scotty and Rory. They both have 3 wins. They both have a major, and they both have sort of an elevated event, if you will. Rory has the Players' Championship. Scotty just wins wins over at Jack's Place at Muirfield. And so all of a sudden this Player of the Year conversation, which was all Rory's because of that big win at Augusta and, of course, the hot start to the year. All of a sudden now it's a topic of conversation. And I think that's going to nudge Rory a little bit. And so he goes to a place a week before a major championship, which is the U.S. Open, after a poor performance at the PGA where he finished tied 47th. And all of a sudden I think Rory's going to be refocused. And I think when you see Rory in a refocused state in a part of the world where he really feels comfortable, I think he's going to have a great week, and it's going to lead to another great week for him at a U.S. Open at Oakmont.
All right, yeah, I'm excited to see Scotty and Rory go head-to-head, hopefully, for our sake, for the viewers at the U.S. Open. Breed, as mentioned, Rory, the biggest name in the field, but who do you think needs a big week here at the RBC Canadian Open heading into that next major?
I'm looking for Cameron Young. Cameron Young comes out of a U.S. Open qualifier yesterday and makes it through successfully in a playoff in Ohio. He has started to really find his form a bit. The iron play is getting a little bit better. He's having a wonderful putting year. But the things that are hanging out in the balance for Cameron Young are the following. One, he's 58th in the FedEx Cup points list. You got to be in the top 50 to get into these signature events next year. That is obviously on his mind and something that is going to propel him into really focusing and playing some good golf in this last half of the year. The other thing that's going on, it's a Ryder Cup year, and he's a New York guy, and it's a New York Ryder Cup. And when you start to kind of do the math on this one, he is outside looking in. Right now, I think he's outside of the top 30 in the Ryder Cup points list. But if he can go on a little heater like Ben Griffin has done and do what Ben Griffin has done, which is pick up a couple of wins over the last month and a half, now all of a sudden he puts himself firmly in that position to make the Ryder Cup team, which he desperately wants to do. As I said, the Ryder Cup is at Bethpage out on Long Island. His father, a PGA professional in the Metropolitan section, and Cameron growing up playing golf at Sleepy Hollow, which is not far from Bethpage in the New York area. So when I look at who I think needs a great week and is going to have a great week, I'm looking right at Cameron Young. I think it's really important how he plays this week at the Canadian Open, obviously next week at the U.S. Open, and through the remainder of the year. If he's going to put himself in that position to get into those signature events on the PGA Tour next year, it's really important for him to get it done now. Let's start that car and let's hit the gas pedal.
Breed, we certainly appreciate it, giving us an RBC Canadian Open preview with us on HQ. As mentioned, Rory, he is the favorite, and we got you covered here on CBS and Paramount Plus for coverage Saturday and Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. The RBC Canadian Open is underway this week, and we're getting a look at the odds to win it all. Rory McIlroy, the biggest name in the field. He is the favorite there at plus 450, where he's had success in Canada before. Corey Connors at 20-1, Shane Lowry, and then McIntyre 28-1 as he tries to go back-to-back. All right, we have Sia Nejad here in-house. We're going to go through the DFS angle, good picks, your pick to win, all the things for the RBC Canadian Open. We are starting here with your pick to win. Who do you like?
Okay, Jacqueline, you mentioned Rory McIlroy at the top of the board. Yeah. I don't want to get in his way. Okay. So one thing that FanDuel and a lot of these other outfits offer is the without market. So I'm doing the without Rory McIlroy market, so I don't have to mess with him. It is interesting, and honestly, it's like the without Scotty Scheffler market. That's what I took last week, and obviously that paid benefits. But I'm going to take Keith Mitchell. He's not a name that was on that odds list, right? He's kind of right behind some of those guys like Luke Clanton and the like. But Keith Mitchell is a guy, especially at a new course at TPC Toronto, that I'm looking for ball strikers more than anything. I don't think we specifically know what this course is going to call for from a nuance perspective. There's a lot of little things. We've never been to TPC Toronto for a PGA Tour event. And I think when you do that, you want to lean on guys that you kind of know where their game is at. Now, with Keith Mitchell, he's a great ball striker. We saw him really flash at the Truist Championship just a few weeks ago. And the long and short of it is, speaking of short, the short game has actually been pretty good for Keith Mitchell as well. So I think when you add the ball striking to this emergence of a short game and you take Rory McIlroy out of it, there's not a ton of big names in this field. Once you take Rory out, I think Keith Mitchell's one of those guys that usually can't win, or really can't win. We've seen that. You take Rory out of it in a field like this, I think he can at 35-1.
Yeah, so 35-1, but the big asterisk is without Rory.
That's right. Huge asterisk.
In the field. all right, so we're going to get into the DFS angle, good buys, bad buys. Kick us off with the good buys. Who are you finding some good value in?
Yeah, so there's a couple guys at the top of the board. At the top of the odds board, too. Luke Clanton was one of them, a kind of a newcomer. We've seen enough of Luke Clanton to know that this is a really, really good golfer. He's extremely talented, extremely good ball striker. We've seen him get hot with the putter before. That is a perfect combination for DFS. And what I love about his price here on FanDuel is that he's in a price range where he's not going to get a ton of attention. Yes, people like Luke Clanton, he'll get some ownership. But when you play Rory McIlroy at the top, you're not going to be able to play Luke Clanton. It's just not going to really fit into your lineup. And then if you don't play Rory, you're probably going to play a guy like Corey Connors, who's going to be popular, or Taylor Pendrith. And when you play those types of players, you're probably also not going to have a lot of room to fit Luke Clanton in your lineup. So I like Luke Clanton. And then from an upside standpoint, Alex Smalley's the other guy that I think is a great DFS buy. He's relatively cheap. We've seen him pop before. Early in 2025, he really popped with 3 top 20s in a row, starting to reemerge. So I think Alex Smalley is a great value.
Okay, when it comes to the bad buys, we're looking at guys like Corey Connors, Wyndham Clark. Why are you out on them?
2 different reasons.
Okay,
so first, I'll just start with Wyndham Clark. That's the easier one. Wyndham Clark just hasn't been playing well. Like, I'm not going to invest in a guy that is really just name value, and the game value just isn't there. So I'm just going to set him aside, not willing to play Wyndham Clark. I'm not willing to put in my DFS line. Corey Connors is a different story. He plays well in Canada. He's been playing very well. He absolutely can win this tournament. Problem is, that's what everybody else thinks. And when you're playing DFS, you got to really kind of lock in on game theory. And the game theory says, well, if everybody's going to play like Corey Connors and Taylor Pendrith, Canadians that are coming in good form, maybe it's time to pivot off of those guys. And so that's what I'm going to do. I think Corey Connors is going to have a fine tournament. I don't think he's going to win the tournament. And I'm willing to kind of take him out of my lineup and hope that he just has a middling event. And then everybody who's playing him will just have a middling lineup.
All right, so we're out on Corey Connors, out on Wyndham Clark for 2 different reasons. When it comes to who you think is, your best bet, who do you like?
So I always come on a Tuesday. You might remember this. It's always like a top in-region bet over at FanDuel, or it's a nationality prop. They're
yes.
kind of named the same thing. They're named differently. I'm going to do it again. Last week I was on Adam Scott, top Oceania. I think it was plus 150. That one came in.
Okay, so you're riding the top Oceania wave.
I'm riding the by the way, the wordplay, top Oceania wave. I really like that.
Oh, okay. I didn't even do that on purpose, but kudos to me.
Own it.
That was amazing.
It was awesome. Okay, so I'm going right back to that market. We don't have Adam Scott, which is probably a good thing. I'm taking Ryan Fox.
Okay.
Ryan Fox at plus 100 on FanDuel, even money. We're talking about 3 other guys that are in this market: Aaron Baddeley, Harrison Endicott, and Carl Phillips. I like Carl Phillips a lot. The other 2, they're not going to factor in here. Carl Phillips I hit in Puerto Rico at 70 to 1. So I like his game, but he's not really super consistent. I don't like him off the tee in particular. Ryan Fox, usually pretty wild off the tee, but he's really reined it in since his win a few weeks ago. He's going to be accurate, relatively long, and the approach play is there for Ryan Fox. He's coming in a good play. I really like this play at even money.
All right, so at even money, ride the Oceania wave. That's what we're going with.
Love it.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate it. Best bets, the DFS angle, all of the things for the RBC Canadian Open. The early wedge. Sia, what can we look forward to on there?
Okay, so 4 days a week. We have a Monday show where we do DFS, a Tuesday show where we do best bets. Those are both at 7 o'clock. A Wednesday show where we do a live chat. I'll be doing that tomorrow with Mike McClure. And then on Sunday, we have a live show during round 4 to hone in on live bets during round 4.
Amazing. And you can watch the episodes right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.